Shalom, people. Get that straight. Shalom, people. This is Brother Laos coming at you with another video. And Memorial Day is coming up in a few days, where this nation honors the sacrifice made by those that have served in the U.S. Armed Forces. I myself was in the United States Army for 20 years. I retired back in 2004. It's a kind of inner conflict with me, knowing about the history of this nation, and not just this nation, but all the Japhetic nations and their armies, knowing what they have done from the British Army to the French Army, the German Army, and the American armies, what they have done to our people. As I look at my service, I sometimes feel almost ashamed at the fact that, okay, yeah, you doing what you need to do to take care of your family, right? But the job that you're doing, you were part of the military arm of the Antichrist kingdom that kept peoples of color all around the world in subjugation. You cannot downplay it. You cannot downplay the role that all those different armies, starting really with Rome, have had on peoples of color throughout this earth. It's been very detrimental. I went in to definitely, do something other than a life of crime when I joined in the military, not knowing that my service would help America through its military carry out crimes on a worldwide scale, but because it was done under the flag of the United States Army and all its branches of the military, that it was not being seen as a crime. And therefore those that served in its ranks that were people of color, as long as we were docile and made to feel that we were privileged, then some of us overlooked that, and that's not a good thing. And from time to time, my mind and my heart, as I started, being illuminated by different things that I learned over the years, many of them after I got out the military. It made me feel that I no longer want to be part of this worship of the God of forces that Daniel talks about when he talks about the Antichrist spirit. And when you look at this nation and other European nations, for that matter, with their honoring of their military, where they disguise it as honoring those that gave the sacrifices, but actually they're honoring the God of forces, I find myself not wanting to participate in that anymore. But at the same time, those that have not come to that conclusion, I kind of feel they're going to have to come to that conclusion on their own. But if they ask me, I'm going to tell them, I don't honor that. That those people died in their minds believing that they were. That doesn't change the truth. That doesn't change the truth of the matter, that especially if we as black people were part of this military, that we were helping serve in an operation, an organization that was doing things that was causing problems for mainly people of color. We had to draw a line in the sand and just make a decision on whether we're going to keep the rose-colored glasses on, because if we continue to honor this thing and to give it power, this is giving it power over our people. We can't. Well, think about this. When Yeshua was being crucified, and the crucifixion was just not him being nailed to the stake. The crucifixion started with the accusations against him, but also the whipping, the flogging, the interrogation, all of that. When it came down time for the execution of him, our people had to go to the Roman army, Pontius Pilate. Pontius Pilate was the military governor of Syria. Syria included Israel and many other places. It had to go to the military arm. And that's why Pontius Pilate said, I have the power to release you. Now, we know that Yeshua told him, my Father is giving you that power, right? But we could see, if you were a believer in Yeshua on the day that he was being crucified, if you was in the Roman army, how could you explain your continued support for him, for Caesar, and for all these things? Notice what our people said when Pontius Pilate said, isn't he your king? What did our people say? We have no king but Caesar. We had to reverse that, people. We have to reverse that, because we have been under the subjugation of Caesar. We have, in many cases, willing subjugation. And this is in the military. This is in the military, because then we subject ourselves to their patriotism, thoughts of patriotism, and therefore, how can you get mad at them when they worship the God of forces, when you part of that and you empowering them? There is a reason the army has the sword. It's not in vain. It's to be used. So this came in clear view to me when they had the LA riots. In the LA riots back with Rodney King, I think it was 90, I can't remember, 91, they called up the California Army National Guard. And they had pictures of these black guardsmen standing in Compton and all throughout LA County. And they had a picture of this one, because the way the National Guard works, your local armory, whatever, it draws from people in that community. So you had these black LA guardsmen that were from these areas. They were from Compton. When they were standing on the corners with M16s pointed at their relatives. They had these weapons pointed at their relatives, because they was policing the areas where they live, where their relatives live. But they was part of that machine. So now what would you think about your patriotism then if your patriotism told you to lock down the neighborhood where you live, your wife live, your cousin live, and you pointing an M16 at them? What are you going to do then? Are you going to say, well, that's just part of my job? No, you're going to rise up and say, no, I cannot be part of this. These are the hard choices that the Most High is starting to make us make now. Because what has been is under the guise of peace and integration, they let some of us get in, and a lot of soldiers, black soldiers that got out became part of the black middle class. The black middle class has been one of the engines that has drove America when they got those blue collar jobs, where they became farmers or they became policemen or whatever when they got out of the military, when they retired out of the military. Those that continue on, the ones that didn't fall off the wayside. And so then what happens is that which is making the money for you, it's like, oh, you got to show honor to it because look what it did for you. But at the same time, if it's taking someone that you love, if it's taking some neighborhood that you have, what would you say to those that helped bring down Marcus Garvey? They helped found who helped bring about the FBI when they was working for J. Edgar Hoover to bring down Marcus Garvey. Do you think that they should feel honorable for their service to the United States government? I dare say you wouldn't, but it's because America is the military arm of the Antichrist and we worship the God of forces. It's hard for us to stand up against that unless it's the Holy Spirit in you. How many times in the past have we seen people that we seen that were anti-war and we just felt in our mind, or they just cowards or whatever? Some of the people that have hated the wars the most secretly probably have ones that was the most valiant, because when they went into the heart of seeing what real war was like and they seen all the real casualties, they probably said no more honoring of this. One of the things that some advisors to Napoleon told him, because at one time war was not like it is now. What they would do is they would muster up an army, and they said, the way we're gonna pay you is when we go into an area and we conquer that country, you get to divide the spoils of what we conquer. So there's women there, you can grab them and rape them, you can take the farms, you can take the animals, you can take the men and enslave them, and that's how wars were fought. And so Napoleon's advisor said, look, this is what we can do. And we can start making war, just the act of being in the war, the act of fighting valiantly, we can make that reward by issuing out not land, issuing out not the spoils of the war. We'll keep the spoils to ourselves and give them a meager pay. But what we can do is give them medals and awards and name monuments and stuff after them, and that'll replace the monetary. We can put honor and decency to it when everybody knew war was an evil, wicked endeavor that you only went in unless in somebody, which you should only go in if somebody's invading your country or whatever, if they're messing with you, right? And so this is how they do it here in America and all other nations where they want people not to understand that war is not beautiful. It's not what it's shown to be. Let's give these medals out. Congressional Medal of Honor, Silver Star, Distinguished Service Cross, Purple Heart, all these things. And that's building monuments and stuff. And that's grand stories about how the enemy was so wicked. The Indian fighters of Custer's last stands. When what Custer actually went in and did was he attacked the squaws and and the children. And that's why it said when they investigated the battlefield where Custer's men were, his last stand, they found that most of the bullets were in their back head. They were running away because they knew one of the things that they did was dishonorable to attack the women and children when the main warrior party was away, and when they came back, they had no mercy on them, for rightfully so. The only thing, like I said, that can be said again was that some of our ancestors in the Civil War were given an opportunity during the Civil War to go in with the Union Army to the South and fight against some of the Confederate armies to help free some of their people off the land. So this is where the conflict comes in. Wherein does it help us to be part of these forces? If there's no value in it toward us, people as color, then I'm kind of suspect about it. And so I'll leave it up to those that watch this video, because I didn't come to this conclusion overnight. And I talk to those of different branches. I talk to those of my comrades that I serve with, and point out, yeah, some of the things good that we might have done, but when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, they will offer me to come to this or that to honor this country, whatever, unless they would let me also speak on the things that is wrong. Nah, I wouldn't want to do that, because I would just feel that it's just too much of a hypocrisy to sit there and have pride and joy and all these things. I'll just say, for each individual family, for your service member that is serving or has served or died in the service of this country, you had to work that out for yourself to hopefully say that part of my loved one service that helped us, I honor that, what they did, but I don't honor anything that went about to empower and continue the enslavement of white supremacy around this world. Because one of the things that lets us know that the Most High is not about this honoring of the forces is that when Yeshua comes back, the Bible said that they ain't gonna study no more war no more, and that they're gonna beat their swords into plowshares, because war and conflict came about because of rebellion by man, and our peoples being conquered by other foreign armies came about because of our disobedience. Well, my Most High said you would not be able to stand against your enemies. So if we're part of our enemies' armies, what does that say when we start standing up? If we're still part of their armies, it's not gonna work. You're not gonna be able to stand up for your people and be part of these groups. I'm here to tell you that now. You can see this now. I get the Army Times, and you're seeing major busts among U.S. Military officers that were part of the insurrection in Washington, D.C. earlier this year, because that's what the army or the military of this nation was founded off of rebellion from the British Army. Therefore, it it would it would be that spirit, that same spirit of rebellion, that same spirit that when this nation was born and said they wanted to keep slavery legal, the U.S. military has been used to keep that in place. Even the Union Army, around the time that the Civil War was wearing down, a lot of those soldiers had pretty much got tired of dealing with war, had got tired of the slavery question, and that's why after Reconstruction, the United States government pulled the Union Army out of the South and left us at the mercy of the South, and then sent our men out to the West to fight against the Indians. After we had served them and helped them keep the Union together, then they further used us. And also in the Spanish-American War, they used our forces. So it is sometimes complicated. You have to study this stuff out for yourself, and you have to come to your own conclusion. That's how I put peace in my mind about not only this day, but they have Veterans Day, Armed Forces Day, Labor Day, all these days. And that's why the Bible says that we are not to bow down and worship the gods of these other nations that we're a part of. And I know people saying, well, that's easier for you to say because you're out of it now, and they still got people in it. Well, if I had known what I know now, more than likely I probably would have ended my service. I definitely would have. But, you know, for a long time, I was under the blindness about a lot of stuff. Not just the military, but also religion. But now I can do some small part in saying, you know, that this Army, United States Army, and other military forces, they will be part of the forces that will fight against Yeshua. Therefore, do you want to be part of that when that time comes? What are you going to say to the Most High when they ask you to turn your M16 or whatever they have when he comes against the Messiah and say, I'm just doing my patriotic duty? What did the Bible say about those military troops that's gonna happen in the Valley of Decision? He said their blood is gonna be up to the horse's bridle. Do you want to be part of that? Well, so that is what I got to say. You know, you can leave a comment on this video. You can like it, dislike it, and you can subscribe to the channel. Be blessed.